I swear Reddit is the biggest minefield of the internet. So we haven't done this in a long time. So I thought today we would look at Reddit r/am I the a-hole and just see some of the trending stories on there and just how wild they can actually get. So let's get on to this, but before we do, please be sure to hit subscribe down below and like the video just to help this little corner of the internet. But let's see how wild some of these stories can get. So first off, we have, am I the a-hole for asking my colleague if she got rid of her kid yet? Let's get into it, I suppose. Sounds bad, but I'll give context. My 30 female colleague, Maddie, 40 female, seems to be a little too invested in my reproductive system. We're not friends inside or out of work. We occasionally engage in the exchanging of pleasantries, so not someone who can be asking intimate details. When I first met her about 4 years ago, she was talking about her baby non-stop and then asked me if I wanted children. I told her no, I did not. She then asked me why and I said I may have changed my mind. I don't get this whole asking people if they have children, like, do they want children? Why haven't you had children yet? I think it's a very personal question that is loaded with so many complicated topics and scenarios. It's really not worth asking, especially with people you don't really know. Don't get me wrong, I think if a family member you're close to is asking, like, what are your plans, it's not as bad, obviously, but I think when someone who's maybe not as involved in your life kind of asks those unsolicited questions, then it's just not good. Just don't be asking those questions. I told her then I like children such as my nephew, but I have no desire to have my own and that I will not change my mind. She's made a few comments since about what a lovely mother I would make, and I either ignore her or laugh at her. We don't have to want to have children. I think it's a beautiful thing to have kids, and yes, some people are born to be mothers and want to be mothers and want to have beautiful families, and on the other hand, some people just don't want children, and that is okay. I think there's so much pressure on having children, and you know, there's that whole like scenario of you go to a family gathering and it's like, oh, when are you having kids? And it's like, not everyone wants to reproduce and have their own family, and that is okay. It's not something to be judged or that, you know,
oh, I'm sure you'll grow out of it, or that type of thing. Like,
it takes lots of different people to make the world go round, and part of that is people who don't want kids. Like, that's okay. Fast forward to today, I was having a conversation with another colleague about her new granddaughter.
hello. You can't see my dog, but he has just come behind my green screen and he's wanting attention. What are you doing, Rufus? Come here. Rufus! Rufus! I don't think you're going to be able to see him. I'll attach a little photo here. You lay down. Oh, you want to head first? Okay.
He's laid down next to me, so let's carry on. Fast forward to today, I was having a conversation with another colleague about her new granddaughter and my new niece. We were talking about the funny things that babies do. Maddie inserts herself into our conversation and says to me, have you decided to have a baby yet? This annoyed me because firstly, it's none of her business.
Yeah, if I can get out the way, Maddie. Pipe down.
And I've already told her I don't want them. Also, start of a conversation that you're not part of. I simply said, no, have you decided to get rid of your daughter yet? Oh no. She looked stunned and then got up and left the office for a bit. She came back moody and didn't speak to anyone. A couple of my colleagues said to me that I was harsh, but my boss and a couple others said it was a fair reply. So, wise users on Reddit, give me your opinions. Was I the asshole here? I'll be honest, I think it's one of those where you probably could have responded a lot better, or at least maybe the situation could have been a little bit more controlled. But I completely get the situation. Like, don't insert yourself into a conversation where you're not in. Like, I think that's very fair. Like, she wasn't in the conversation, she's inserted herself and then she's made unsolicited comments on top. Like, again, a topic that you don't really dig. Like, she doesn't know her. Why are you asking those questions and insistently like keep asking those questions, it's a bit odd. Why are you so invested in why this woman wants a child or not? Like, a bit odd behaviour there. Don't get me wrong, you probably could look at the situation and go like, you know, you keep asking me, I'm not very comfortable if you keep asking these questions. I can appreciate if you don't. Maybe escalate it then to HR if, you know, it carries on. But I think it's very normal to snap at someone, and I don't blame the response. Maybe not in hindsight the best response, but I think it's a very understandable one. I wonder what the comments do say, because it's very easy to take the side of the poster here. Either way, I think you've shut that convo down. One of the comments said, should have told her to her face in public that this is none of her business and that she needs to knock it off. And then someone replied, I just love the fact that the boss is on the ops side. Really shows this isn't an isolated incident, and I bet a lot of colleagues have complained about her. I do agree. I think it probably would have been best kind of stating it isn't really any of her business, regardless of how that's said. Obviously it can be managed in a lot better manner, or, you know, maybe not as direct. It probably could have been managed through different avenues, but I think it's very in the poster's right to be very annoyed or angry or upset or any of those things, especially from someone you don't know, you're not friends with. And yeah, the Maddie, she needs to be keeping her nose out of other people's business, because it definitely doesn't sound wanted and just isn't a good look. Don't do what Maddie's doing. So next one, and the title was a bit of an odd one, so it caught my eye. Am I the a-hole for being upset about warts? Hello, I'm having a disagreement with my roommates and I feel like I am going insane here. I feel like a lot of debates go that way, to be fair. You argue something and just the people around you, when they are not agreeing or they don't get what you're saying, then you're just like, what is going on here? We have lived together for about 1.5 years, and during that time, warts have appeared on my foot 2 times. Both times, I've immediately treated the wart and made sure it's covered while I'm showering and stuff. I don't like having warts and think they're kind of gross.
I also, my dog is moving again. Where are you going? Good boy.
I also think warts are contagious, I think. Like, highly contagious. You need to cover them and look after them and not share spaces with people with warts. Like, I'm assuming this story is going in that type of direction though. Yesterday I was talking to one of my roommates and I mentioned that I had a wart and kind of complaining about the treatment being an unnecessary expense for me. She said, oh, I just let them be, they don't bother me at all. I then asked if she covered it since warts are contagious, and she said no. I would be fuming. Oh my god. My other roommates also admitted during a later conversation that she has warts too and does not cover them either. That is vile. I'm not being funny. If you're sharing spaces and you have contagious medical things, you should be doing your best to not let them spread. You don't blame someone for having them. Like, I'm not saying you should be like, oh, you're disgusting for having them. That's not the conversation. However, if someone has warts knowingly and they aren't doing what they can to help stop their roommates not get them, I'm sorry, you are a wrong 'un. That is bad behaviour. Like, that is not good roommate behaviour. I told them both that I'm in fact very bothered by warts and that I think showering in a shared bathroom with uncovered warts is rude, because obviously they're the ones giving me warts. They said I was making a huge fuss over nothing. Am I the a-hole? I definitely will be getting some shower shoes ASAP. Never walking barefoot in this house again. Haha. I just think it is very rude and unhygienic and just selfish. I think that's the best way of putting it. It's very selfish behaviour. You are it's just putting others' health at risk. Even if the warts aren't a major problem or like a major concern, let's say, it is still giving someone issues at their expense. Like, you're causing them to pay for treatment and have something wrong with them that they didn't choose to have, all because you're being selfish and choosing either not to treat them or to just openly share them, because that's what you're doing. If you're not covering them and you're using those spaces, like shared spaces, with direct access to the warts, I'm sorry, it's just selfish. Like, I don't know if there's like a legal clause in there, but I'd be finding new roommates. That is vile. I'm sorry, but that is not good behaviour. Comments are agreeing, not the a-hole, but maybe that's a sign to get shower shoes. Yeah, shower shoes. I think, yeah, that is always a good thing to recommend, like sliders or whatever, just for in the shower. But it's a difficult one because you shouldn't necessarily be having to do that. But I think when using shared spaces, it is safer than not. Like, people who have either stayed in hostels, like travelling or whatever, it's kind of a known thing that you do that because of the unknowns of sharing spaces. And obviously you'd think with roommates there's a little bit more understanding between people, but obviously not. So yeah, it's obviously a great recommendation, but at the same time your roommates need to give their head a wobble and not be so selfish, because that is just disgusting behaviour. Get rid of them. Gone. Next one, it's an updated post, so we will read the first post and then the second post. Am I the a-hole for telling my adopted parents I'm disappointed to find out my adopted father is my biological father? That is a lot of baggage and is a heavy situation. That's a lot of mental trauma. Let's get into it. Growing up, I, 16 female, was told a story. I was this precious baby who was born in China, and I was adopted by a lovely white American family. That they loved me and chose me the moment they saw me. That love is what mattered, not blood. That it didn't matter if I didn't look like them. My race didn't matter. I was their daughter because of love. I think it's a weird situation with, you know, not living with your actual parents. I grew up with my grandparents, and you always ask questions of like what your parents were like or what they are like. And even if you grow up in a very loving household, I think you always ask questions, or you always wonder, what did I do wrong? What was the reason I was put in this situation? Was it something I did? Why didn't they want me? Why didn't they love me? It is a very complex situation. I think even if you're in the best loving family, doubt will always seep in. You know, I think that's just natural. But I think the story is going to get a lot messier. Turns out my mum, 41 female, and dad, 41 male, said some lies. My adopted dad knew my biological mum a little too well. I was born in China to a Chinese woman. That part is still true. But my adopted dad is my biological dad. My adopted mum raised the product of her husband's betrayal. That would mess you up so bad. I'm sorry. Like, your parents lying to you about something like that, but you've actually been living with your actual dad the whole time. That is heavy. That is heavy. Like, don't get me wrong, the fact that the wife was willing to stay and then bring up that child, that's a crazy situation. When I found out my parents tried to spin this, all of a sudden it's such a great thing to be blood related to my dad. Did they not think that if it's so great that I'm blood related to my dad, what about the fact that I'm not blood related to my mum, adopted mum? They're disappointed that I said I'm disappointed that my adopted father is my biological father. Being blood related is what a lot of adopted kids dream of, but not like this. Am I weird? Am I the a-hole? I think it's very normal to feel disappointed here. You've been lied to and blindsided. I think, like I said at the start of that bit, like, you will already feel a lot of probably negative emotions tied to the situation, regardless of if it's a positive one. But then to find out all of that's been a lie would be incredibly difficult. I also think, like, obviously, I know she was technically a product of infidelity, but what would have been so bad about telling her that that was her biological father? What was the major negative there? I'm assuming it's to try and bury the past, or maybe like the best way of coping with it for the adults. But at the same time, like, you've stolen that part of the girl's life. You've lied to her and kept that truth to yourself. She's now found out the hard way, and it will change her whole perception of family and truth, and probably her relationship with her father. I think it's very likely that the relationship wouldn't have been any different if she knew it was her biological dad or not. But now it'll probably be a bad relationship because they've lied to her and blindsided her, and it's not what she thought it was. And also, I think finding out that you are a product of an affair and that your dad cheated on your mum, and I think that's very hard. And then knowing your mum stayed, I mean, whether you agree with that or not, like, it must be a lot of emotions to then unpack on top of already pre-existing emotions. But we'll go on to the update. The update may sound more painful than it was. I, 16 female, talked to my biological mum, 38 female, using video chat. People on Reddit encouraged me to do that. My dad, 41 male, encouraged me. My adopted mum, 41 female, encouraged me. Since my bio mum is in China, we had to work out the time zone. I mainly wanted to make sure my parents didn't lie about what they said about my bio mum when they had finally confessed the truth. They didn't lie. I think that's very difficult as well, like that they probably knew more details than what they'd let on, or at least what she thought they knew. My bio mum didn't want me. My dad had offered to leave his wife, who later became my adopted mum, to be with my bio mum when she was pregnant. My bio mum loved my dad, but she wanted to remain child free. My bio mum apologized to me many times. I told her it's okay. My bio mum and I agreed to video chat again. That is so devastating to hear about the like adopted mum, that, you know, he wanted to leave her for his affair, but because she was having the child she didn't want, he stayed with the adopted mum just so he could have the child. I would hate to know how she felt in that whole situation and how maybe she'd feel now, because she did stay around regardless of if that's her choice or not. That must be a horrible feeling. When I talked to my adopted mum after that exhausting video chat, I told my adopted mum I understand she loves me, but I don't understand how she loves my dad. I mentioned how my dad has cheated on her with many women from China, Japan and South Korea. He just sounds like a waste of space, honestly. I asked her what's wrong with her for her to tolerate this. I know that was a rude way to ask. My mum said she loves my dad and that she's like a best friend to him. I asked her if the fact that this latest affair partner is telling people about my dad's affair will change anything with them. My mum said no. I suppose it's her choice on whether she stays or not. I think it's very sad to hear this. I think it's very easy to point fingers and go, well, why haven't you left? You know, I don't think it's as black and white as people make it out to be, but I still think this is a really sad situation. You know, it sounds like he has cheated on her way too many times. I don't know if you'd say it's a mistake, but maybe the first time people feel like, oh, it's a mistake, you know, he's messed up, and then he can try and fix things. But the fact this has happened multiple times, and it doesn't sound like this was the last situation, obviously, it sounds like it's ongoing. And the fact that she's staying, it is very sad to hear. I wonder what the real reasonings are. Is maybe she feels like she can't leave, or I don't know, maybe financial security, or just what you know best, or whether there's like any sort of like abuse going on, or I don't really know. But it is very sad to hear that she is just putting up with that. I understand the frustration of the original poster. Yes, maybe not the best way to word it, but being frustrated at that situation and definitely asking those questions are valid. Maybe just the way of saying them wasn't the best, especially since this sounds like a very emotionally charged situation all around. I guess this is my life. I obviously love my adopted mum. I love my dad, even with his massive red flags. My feelings towards my bio mum are complicated, but I am okay. I think it would be very difficult with the bio mum situation. I don't think you obviously don't have to have that relationship if you don't want to. And again, I think it's very complicated because I think there always will be an urge to know your biological parents, and some people are okay with not knowing them, and some people have to kind of close that chapter or at least look at that chapter. This situation sounds a really complicated one, and I hope the original poster finds some clarity or some peace with the situation. And bless her, I really feel sorry that, you know, she has been lied to and that the situation is a lot more different than what she thought it was. But honestly, I feel really bad for the mum, the adopted mum in all of this. Like, the guy sounds like an absolute piece of shit. Like, I hope that, you know, maybe she can walk away one day, but that's just not good. The original poster has commented, I don't think I'll end up like my mum. I still don't understand how this has happened to her. I mean, it will teach her some lessons, regardless of how great those lessons are, that yeah, that is not acceptable behaviour and it's not something you want to see for yourself or for others. So maybe silver lining, but it's just not a nice situation, is it? Reddit is honestly a minefield. That is just the top of what I saw on the Am I the A-hole Reddit. But
Yeah, just mental.
If you did enjoy this, please like the video and subscribe down below. Do comment what you think about all of these situations. I don't know how I'd have reacted in all of them, but yeah, just crazy. As always, do let me know what you want to see from me. If you do want to see more videos like this, then let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.